the Beast of Sicily. They called him La Belva, the Beast. Salvatore Toto Riina, small in stature, quiet voice, thick Sicilian accent, and the deadliest man Italy ever produced. Riina was born in 1930 and grew up dirt poor in Corleone, a farming village in the province of Palermo, western Sicily, already infamous for its blood feuds. By 1949, at the age of 19, he committed his first murder by killing a man during a bar argument. Riina drew a pistol and shot the guy. No remorse, no hesitation. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to 12 years, serving about 6 years before being released in 1956. Riina wanted absolute control over the Sicilian Mafia, every city, every family, every piece of power. He wanted revenge against the Palermo bosses who looked down on the Corleonesi. Between 1978 and 1983, he launched what became known as the Second Mafia War. An estimated 500 to 1,000 people were killed. Entire clans were wiped out. Car bombs exploded outside homes, ambushes on highways, executions in markets. He didn't just kill rivals, he slaughtered their wives, children, and friends. Bodies turned up in rivers, burned in cars, or were never found at all. When prosecutors like Giovanni Falcone, Paolo Borsellino, and Judge Antonino Caponetto built the Maxi trial, the most significant anti-mafia case in Italian history, based on testimonies of mafia defectors, Riina declared war on the state itself. In May 1992, he ordered Falcone's assassination. The bomb weighed 400 kilograms and was planted under the A29 motorway near Palermo. When Falcone's convoy passed, the explosion created a crater 10 meters wide. His car disintegrated. His wife, Francesca Morvillo, and 3 escort officers were torn apart instantly. 57 days later, on July 19, 1992, Riina struck again. Paolo Borsellino was blown up outside his mother's house with another car bomb. It killed him and 5 officers. That summer, Italy realized the mafia wasn't underground anymore. It was in open war. For years, he hid behind silence. But once the state spoke his name aloud, his empire began to crumble. Fear, it turned out, has an expiration date. Riina was captured on January 15, 1993, after 23 years as a fugitive, living in Palermo under a fake name, protected by corrupt networks and local blood feud. When asked about Falcone's death, he shrugged and said, "It was necessary." He died in prison in 2017 at the age of 87, at the prison hospital in Parma, unrepentant. The Iceman. If Salvatore Riina was a warlord, Richard Kuklinski was a machine. No family to lead, no soldiers to command, just a man who turned murder into a side hustle. Born in New Jersey in 1935, Kuklinski's childhood was a masterclass in cruelty. His alcoholic father's beatings were so brutal that Richard's older brother Florian didn't survive them. By his teenage years, Kuklinski was already killing stray dogs for practice. Then he upgraded to people. He once bragged that the first man he killed was a bully called Charlie Lane from his neighborhood, beaten to death with a wooden pole and dumped in the river. When no one came looking, Richard realized something terrifying. He could kill without consequence. He stopped killing for anger and started killing for profit. He realized there was money to be made in what came naturally to him, and control to be gained from the fear it created. By the 1970s, he was working as a contract killer for both the Gambino and Genovese families. They liked him because he was reliable, silent, and innovative, the kind of man who treated murder like maintenance work. He didn't just pull triggers, he experimented. Gunshots, strangulation, poison, cyanide gas sprayed from nasal inhalers. Every method was a test. He told investigators, "Sometimes I used a wrench, sometimes I used tape, sometimes I used nothing but my hands." To throw off the police, he stored bodies in industrial freezers, dumping them months later so coroners couldn't tell when they'd died, earning him the nickname, the Iceman. He claimed to have killed a man with a cyanide burger in a New York diner and also shot another in the head mid-sentence for being annoying. When a mob associate failed to pay, Kuklinski beat him with a tire iron, stuffed him in a barrel, and left it outside a motel. He returned 2 days later to check if anyone had moved it. They hadn't. Detectives later linked him to over 100 murders. He claimed 200. His only rule was simple: no women, no children. Everyone else was fair game. He even worked for Roy DeMeo, the Gambino family's most feared butcher, known for dismembering victims in his Brooklyn garage. DeMeo and Kuklinski would test new weapons together: crossbows, chainsaws, and ice picks on live victims. When DeMeo's crew got too unpredictable, Kuklinski quietly took contracts from other families instead. What made him especially terrifying was how perfectly he hid in plain sight. He lived in the suburbs of Dumont, New Jersey, in a 2-story home with his wife, Barbara Padrici, and 3 kids. He hosted barbecues. He took family photos. He went to church on Sundays. His wife thought he worked in film distribution, and in a way, he did. He distributed the final cut. At night, he kept a secret warehouse filled with weapons, guns, knives, rope, acid, and barrels for storage. He called it his workshop. He was finally caught on December 17, 1986, after Operation Iceman, a joint undercover sting by the New Jersey Attorney General's office and ATF. Dominic Polifrone, an undercover agent posing as a hitman, recorded Kuklinski casually discussing a new cyanide kill. He was arrested with cyanide spray in his car, a gun in his coat, and not a flicker of surprise on his face. During interviews from prison, he spoke about murder the way most people talk about grocery lists. "Do I feel sorry?" he said. "Sometimes, but not often." He died on March 5, 2006, at the age of 70, after 18 years behind bars, still insisting there were bodies no one would ever find. The invisible dictator. Vito Genovese didn't need to raise his voice. One word from him, and men disappeared, quietly, efficiently, and without a trace. He started as a loyal soldier under Lucky Luciano during Prohibition, smuggling liquor, running brothels, and collecting debts for the Mafia's rising empire. But Genovese wasn't built to serve anyone. He watched, waited, and learned, every ally a potential stepping stone. When Luciano was deported in 1946, Genovese made his move. He wanted the throne, and he didn't mind redecorating it in blood. By 1957, he ordered a hit on Frank Costello, the acting boss of the Luciano family. As Costello returned to his apartment lobby one evening, a gunman ambushed him and fired a single shot. The bullet grazed his skull, sending him to the ground. Costello survived, but the next day, he announced his retirement. He told reporters, "I got the message." With Costello gone, Genovese stepped into power. He began reshaping the Mafia Commission, the governing council of organized crime, turning what was meant to be a democracy into a dictatorship with himself at the center. He spoke of restoring discipline, but what he really wanted was obedience. Under his command, the family expanded into gambling, loan sharking, racketeering, and heroin trafficking. He linked New York's underworld to Italian suppliers, creating a transatlantic drug route that would later inspire the movie The French Connection. Heroin was shipped in crates of olive oil, tomato paste, and soap. From Naples to the Bronx, it moved through Genovese's hands like currency, pure, profitable, and deadly. He effectively globalized organized crime decades before cartels existed. But money alone wasn't enough. He wanted absolute control, and that required fear. One lieutenant was strangled in a parked car after hesitating to carry out an order. Another was shot in front of his wife for speaking out of turn. Bodies appeared in rivers, alleyways, and trunks, each one a warning. Even old friends weren't spared. When Willie Moretti, Genovese's longtime ally and godfather to Frank Sinatra, began talking too freely due to mental illness, Genovese allegedly had him executed. 4 gunmen walked into a New Jersey restaurant, surrounded his table, and emptied their pistols into his head. Sinatra lost his godfather, and the underworld lost any illusion of loyalty. Behind the scenes, Genovese also extended his reach overseas. During World War II, he fled to Italy to avoid prosecution for murder, where he worked under Mussolini's fascist regime as a black market profiteer. He supplied the Italian army with contraband goods, and is widely believed to have arranged the assassination of Italian anti-fascist journalist Carlo Tresca, who had insulted Mussolini. When the Allies invaded Italy, Genovese switched sides overnight. He began helping American forces root out black market rivals, pretending to be an informant. He even worked as an interpreter for U.S. military officials, until one officer recognized his name and realized he was wanted for murder back in New York. He was extradited and put on trial, but the key witness against him was found dead, shot in the head, before he could testify. Genovese walked free. In 1957, he hosted a grand summit in upstate New York, the Appalachian Meeting, where over 100 mobsters from across the U.S., Cuba, and Italy gathered to unify operations across America. It was meant to be his coronation. Instead, it became his downfall. State troopers, suspicious of all the expensive cars parked outside a rural mansion, raided the property. Gangsters ran through the woods in suits and silk shoes, dropping cash and guns as they fled. The FBI finally had proof of a nationwide criminal network, and Genovese's name was at the top. Within a year, he was arrested for heroin trafficking. Ironically, the evidence that brought him down came from a sting orchestrated by 2 men he thought he owned, Carlo Gambino and Frank Costello, who had secretly set him up. In 1959, He was sentenced to 15 years in Atlanta federal prison. At the age of 71, he died of a heart attack on February 14, 1969, but his shadow lingered. The Genovese family remains one of the most powerful mafia families in America to this day, proof that its reach outlived its pulse. There were no car bombs, no shootouts, no chaos. Genovese ruled through quiet terror, the kind that seeps into every conversation and makes men wonder if they've already said too much. Because in his world, death didn't announce itself. It just arrived, on time, without a sound. This mystery may be over, but the next one will keep you up at night. Watch now.